Okay, this is the November 14th meeting of the Flood and Erosion Control Board. We're starting the meeting at 7:04. Present are Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Dick Mahusky, I'm Secretary.
Prue O'Brien, Recording Secretary.
Peter?
Peter Wiswell, member.
And then we have a guest.
And Charles Abercrombie, guest.
All right. Thank you all for coming. We are going to start with the agenda, and the first item on the agenda is to hear, consider, and act upon the minutes of October 17th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments or suggested edits?
Yes. Well,
I actually have a few this time, too.
See? Well, you go first.
Well, no, because I have to circle mine. I read it, and I said, I've got to say that. So you go.
Well, first of all, at the time that Prue did these draft minutes, the recording was not available, but in fact, it is available, and I have the link somewhere. Okay. I think I may have emailed you the link. I don't know. But it was interesting because I went to Dave Kelly, the IT director, and said, we can't, because I looked for them myself. I said, well, maybe you did them early and it just wasn't posted yet. And I couldn't find them. And this new web system we have, it's not like the old one. The old one, you went to meeting recordings and they had the list of every meeting that was possibly recorded. And this isn't quite yet the same way. But there were subsequent emails between Dave Kelly and Luke Altieri or something who does the posting. And Dave Kelly made the comment that, it's not easy to find these things. So I don't know. But we will, between Prue and I, we will get that righteous link and put it in the draft.
Well, I'll do it when I do the
rest of the
amendments. Yeah.
So then on page 2, which is item number 5, which is the update on the status of the projects. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets down. Downtown green infrastructure. Pine Creek section is done and working toward the center. FECB will help with new developments. I don't know and I don't understand what Pine Creek section done means.
Okay.
Because Becky, who's the consultant that's working on that? They have a consultant. We have money from the ARPA funds for this.
We have 1.2 million for this, and the bids came in at 3.2. So they are only going to be able to do parts of them, is my understanding.
This is only for design now.
I thought it was design and implementation. I'd have to go back and check that.
Okay, I got to check that too, because typically.
But I know that the quote to do everything came in higher than our fund. So what we're now doing is going back and right-sizing it to the budget, is my understanding.
So referring to the Pine Creek section, is that what we talked about last week at that update meeting, where the engineers proposing huge culverts down near St. Thomas Church?
Yes, but is that Pine Creek though?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes into Pine Creek.
Okay.
So that would kind of make sense.
So basically,
the culvert would go down near where the old Fairfield lumber yard was. On the name of the street escapes me.
Right.
But anyway, but there'd be big.
There was a box culvert. So what Bill?
6-foot box culvert or something.
He said there'd be a big box culvert, but that was going to be 1.3 million for that. And the whole thing was well over our current budget, so they were going to have to pick pieces of it, is my understanding. So what I would say is that downtown green infrastructure, because I also had an issue with Flood and Erosion Control Board will help with new developments. I would say downtown green infrastructure, what I would say is working through budget constraints or something.
That's good. Working through budget constraints, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Period.
Okay. And then you got that?
Yeah.
And then the next bullet down, tide gates. Draft is back and they are working through it. I would just suggest replacing they with conservation and
Yeah.
engineering, because I always dislike they, because you go, well, who's they? Who, you know,
Yeah.
give some
and
Conservation?
engineering.
conservation and engineering.
Okay.
To
Well, the
replace
conservation's leading
they.
it. But, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but Bill's involved.
Okay.
And then 2 more bullets down, Southport Harbor dredging. FECB will not pursue sand. I would add reuse
yeah.
on beaches.
Okay. Sorry, I think I was thinking I should extend that, but I didn't.
Okay, and then item number 7, modify POCD and grade to Fairfield Beach Road, flooding coming up through flood drains. Dick Mosky will send out an edited draft document. So I'm working on this draft document to put it into final form, and I don't know what this means. And we also talked about adding road elevation was one of the items that we wanted to add in there, so that we would go on record that the town, if the town adopts the POCD, we would like to have in there the item of road elevations to address sunny day flooding as sea level rise comes.
So that's not great?
Well,
No?
I don't know, I mean,
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
How about if it's modify POCD and,
Maybe just we discuss the POCD and we'll send our recommendations to planning and zoning.
Okay.
because that'll include raising the road.
Yeah.
Dick, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Flooding coming up through flood drains. Is it, are there a certain number of flood drains that's happening with, or is it all of them?
Well,
I mean, it depends on what.
Generally, that's anecdotal
How high the
at
tide
moment.
is. I mean, I go down, and when I see it come up in the drain in front of my house, I'll often go down and see how many other drains are also being flooded, how much is coming up from other catch basins, and I would say when mine is very heavy, almost all of them, it's coming up through almost all of them. When mine is light, it might only be 2 or 3 other ones. Mine tends to be always one of the ones that comes
Yeah,
up
well,
through.
you're down at the low point on
Yeah.
Fairfield Beach Road.
Yeah.
One of the getting back to the tide gate report, we saw, Becky and I saw a physical copy of that report, and I think it was even double-sided, and it was like an inch and a quarter
2 inches thick.
Yeah, so it's
Lots
a
of pictures.
real comprehensive report, lots of pictures, and they're not just looking at the self-regulating tide gates. They're looking at all the storm drains, whether it has a flapper valve on it, whether it has a duckbill on it, whether it's just open. They're looking at everything. So this is going to be really comprehensive and show us, especially out on the peninsula where the sunny day flooding happens, it'll show us what's on those pipes. And
Right. The problem
there's a lot
is,
of maintenance that's going to be.
the problem is, out of the 32 floodgates that the town has, only 26, they could only find 26 of them. 6 of them are either buried or unavailable, and presumably not working. So that's what the holdup is to releasing the report, because they're trying to identify those 6.
And I had asked him for a copy of that report, and he said, "Well, it's only draft. I don't want to release it." And I said, "I obligate myself not to share it with anybody. I just wanted, an initial look." And he didn't do that. He said, "No, I don't want it to get out."
Well, he brought it up and showed it to us.
Yeah. He said, "You can see it. It's one of those things. You're welcome to come and look at it at our office, but you may not take a copy with you."
Yeah.
So.
I had
and that's fair.
My
last one, Paul Andino has turned out, if no one is appointed, he can stay short-term according to statute. I think town charter makes more sense than statute, because that's enumerated in our town charter.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
I had 2 others. One is on point 5. The second one, Rooster River. I just thought it was confusing. ARPA and grant, Bridgeport interviewing engineers, looking for easements. My understanding is Fairfield are looking for the easements on the Fairfield side, and Bridgeport is interviewing engineers.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Yes.
I would just
Make a separate
make it a
sentence.
separate sentence there.
Okay.
Fairfield.
And add Fairfield is looking for easements.
And then I had one other one, which is on the engineered beaches.
And I would also say Fairfield is looking for maintenance easements. Because especially with this UI brouhaha going on, people are looking at these easements like they're gonna knock my building down, or they're gonna, I don't know what they're.
They just want the ability to go across the land.
Yeah, they wanna go across the land, and more importantly, each property owns half of the river. So if you're gonna clean the river, you have to get permission from that property owner to go and scrape out the muck and mire from the bottom of the river.
I mean, technically, the property owners are supposed to, because they own the river, they're supposed to be cleaning it.
Yeah, but they don't care if it.
If it floods. The only other one I had was over on engineered beaches on page 2.
Yep.
All but Penfield approved by EPA, and then the next sentence I would say the Penfield beach will need an updated profile, because I think they're gonna have to redo the profile, even though they had done a preliminary profile, they're gonna have to redo the profile.
Okay.
That's all I had, though. If there are no other comments, Peter, do you have any comments on the minutes?
No.
Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so
Aye.
moved. All right, the next agenda item is to update on evolving plans for Penfield Pavilion and the neighborhood flood mitigation measures.
We know nothing.
Well, we know nothing, but I can say that the FBRA did send a letter to the town asking for clarification on the contaminant mitigation measures. There was a concern that there may not have been a plan in place, particularly an emergency plan, to contain contaminants from washing into the neighborhood behind should a big storm come. And the FBRA asked for clarification on what measures are in place to contain that. There was also a video sent to me today showing lots of wind at the site with open pits and sand blowing across the parking lot, which was concerning to a resident who has asked this be looked into, that could contaminants be washing into the neighborhood behind because they were not adequately contained. So I think Flood and Erosion, based upon that, might want to also send a note asking for what the detailed containment plans are for contaminated erosion sediments getting to the neighborhoods behind.
Well, how about this? I still have not finished the letter from us to Tom Bremer and Eli Gazal about taking the good clean sand, the sand that is judged to be clean of contaminants, and piling it over in front of Rickard's Beach.
Okay,
So I will mention the blowing
both.
sand also, that the sand
Okay.
really needs to be contained until proven clean. Then when it goes on the beach, the normal beach wind pickup is
I don't care.
a
if it's
natural
clean.
activity. Yeah.
It's contaminated that is the concern. So yes. And then, so that's all an update I have on the pavilion itself. My understanding from the last Board of Finance meeting is that we still don't have final costs, but that's not really a flood and erosion control concern.
Right.
What is our concern is the flood mitigation study. I sent another note to the town asking to have an update meeting with Race so that we could get an update. When I had briefly talked with Race, and Race specifically said they didn't feel comfortable talking just to me, they said they'd like the town to be on the call. I said, fine, called Eli and asked him to set up a call 2 weeks ago, and I still have not heard anything back. So I would like to get an update.
Back to who won the election and who's going to be in charge.
I would still like to get an update because they had said that they would do the modeling in September, and here we are, almost December.
Yeah. No.
So yet again, they have delayed the project.
No, we need another joint meeting with everyone, because one of the things, back in March, I had sent a request to this outfit for these stop logs, the demountable flood wall protection. And I finally got an answer back from them, from one of the outfits a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to send that to Bremer, Eli, copy race about, hey, so the stop logs, per my sketch from back in March, the stop logs will cost either $60,000 or $90,000, depending on the height. Yeah, it's like it winds up being. I want to say 500. No, it's either $500 a foot or $750 a foot, depending on the height.
Okay.
Of it, something like that.
And these would be the temporary structures that would go in sort of the drive-in area.
Right. Because if you recall the thing I put together, it's like a concrete or sheet pile, something, a flood wall. But at the entrance to the pavilion proper, it stepped down so that it was open so you could view the pavilion. And part of that was to ramp up the road a little bit in front of, just from the pavilion property one end to the other, and ramp up the road so that at the entrance we have the road 2 feet higher? Yeah, 2 feet higher. So if the road is 2 feet higher, that puts the road at 8 feet in front of the opening to get into the pavilion parking lot. So then all we need is 4 more feet to get up to 12 feet, which is our kind of target prevention elevation.
Yeah.
So that raising the road makes the whole thing look a little less massive.
Right.
And so I will.
Where do you want to put those?
At the entrance to the pavilion parking lot.
A removable section of a to be proposed flood wall.
A temporary. It's not really temporary. It's
demountable.
Yeah. I mean
Yes, Peter.
I think Becky just answered my question. The reference to flood mitigation, that's flood mitigation during the course of construction only.
No, that's what
she wrote. That's what FBRA wrote a letter concerning what are your plans, your emergency plans, should a storm come while you've got all this stuff open and exposed.
Yeah. Because the way they're doing
when you're saying the question is, what if there's a bad storm during the construction project when there's no structure there?
Well, the structure is going to stay. The way they're doing the remediation of the contaminants is they are digging a series of holes. Then the engineer basically has 72 hours to get those samples evaluated to see whether they're contaminants or not. And they have to keep digging until they get to a clean, no contaminants in that hole. And so that hole could be open for a period of time. A big nor'easter could come, water washes the contaminants right into the neighborhood behind. And what is their mitigation plan for making sure that doesn't happen?
Okay, that was Becky, you posed my question.
And they may very well have one. I just could not see it in any of the documents online. So it's really a question. Could you please share your emergency storm plan so that we can feel comfortable?
I would assume that they would not go forward with the project.
The project is happening as we...
without having that mitigation plan, because we all know from the problems with the pile, Mount Trashmore, that if there are contaminants that then get dispersed here and there, you then have a big remediation issue.
Correct. And I'm hoping they have one. I'm just saying that I couldn't find anything online.
Okay.
I looked through all the bid documents and all of the documentation that was on the purchasing website.
Yep.
In fairness, it appears that as they dig these hot spots, as they dig out these hot spots, they are not stockpiling it on site. I mean, I've seen piles, and then the next day the pile is gone. They have a trash container there, and I think some of the stuff they're putting in the trash container, and then when that gets filled, they haul it off to an appropriate landfill in Pennsylvania or wherever it's going for the contaminated soils.
The documents on the site say that there's going to be two piles. One is the contaminated pile, one is the clean pile.
On the drawing.
And they're supposed to cover it with a tarp, a weighted tarp, which seems to me could blow off easily in a very big storm, but I don't know.
Use more weight.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is something that I think just the action item on that is Dick is going to add that into his clean sand, go over to Rickards Beach at the end of the project letter. And the other action item is I will continue to try to get a meeting with Race and the town so we can make sure that the project is moving ahead with pace.
Yeah, the other thing that meeting that I will bring out in that meeting is Race's proposal specifically accepts establishing an engineer's estimate of value to construct their suggested alternatives. And I don't think it's worth anything without that estimate of value, because how are we going to go forward how is the town going to go forward selecting one of the alternatives that we think is best without knowing how much it's going to cost?
Well, that was our recommended approach, was to put values on all.
Yeah, but their second proposal, their modified final proposal, does not have that in it.
No, because
they're not doing it.
Exactly, and I think I want to understand their proposal a little more because they are only doing concept drawings. What they said in our meeting back in July. What they said in our meeting back in July was that they would do that as a second phase. And I said I'd rather have it in the proposal, and it didn't get into the proposal. Because I wanted after the meeting with FEMA and DEEP, I wanted them to then take the one or two winning ideas, the ones that they would permit, and take them up to 60 to 80% level permitting with costs.
Okay.
Because they're only doing a 10% design.
Okay.
And they can't, and you can't do a realistic costing with a 10% design.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you can relatively.
Yeah.
This is 100%. Maybe it's $2 million. This is like 60% of that one. This is like 120% of that one. Yeah.
Well,
just some idea.
Yeah, I mean, they should also. This is their business, and they should be able to put some rough estimates on it.
So,
but that's the
bottom line. We need to have another update meeting with them.
All right.
With all the players.
Action item number 3, update on the public meeting of October 26th regarding the railroad underpass, the Structure project.
So we had a public meeting in the library room, and Alyssa Israel came from the public.
There were a couple other public people.
Maybe 2. I don't know who they were. Ms. Bunnell attended for a short period of time.
I attended most of it. I had to leave early.
But you know all about it, so you didn't have to. It was a very underwhelming meeting. They just reviewed what is published online. They also
they put some costings on things, which is helpful, I thought. So they've put
was that on the slides?
Yeah, they put mitigation plans for the 4 underpasses. The cheapest option is to put basically like railroad gates up so that you would have a flood sensor so that when it was flooded to the point where it would be dangerous, the railroad gate things would come down, and then when the flood waters receded, they would go back up again. And the costing on that, I think I want to say that it was around wasn't it around 200?
I just wrote 90,000 per location. Like one side is 90,000, the other side is 90,000.
Yeah, so 180,000.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
The more aggressive options were basically extending and digging out the catch basins to allow more floodwaters, doing bioswales to divert water, and widening the underpass itself, which had co-benefits of having the ability to have bicycles and much safer walking. But the widening was around $16 million, which is probably going to be cost prohibitive given the benefit. So one of the things we talked about was looking sort of at all the flood and erosion projects around town and weighting them by priority versus cost, how important they are, sense of urgency versus cost. So we may be able to support $180,000 to do the floodgates, but maybe $16 million is better spent doing another project. And that we really can't do that until we have a little bit more information on the costs of some of the other projects around town. So that's, I think, the update on the Circa. And then item 4 is the status on the other projects. So Perry's Green is going out to bid on the 16th. The construction would be in December, and they anticipate a May finish. As you recall, that is basically rebuilding the bulkhead and wall, and I believe doing a little bit of work on the culvert there, I think. Or did they not put that in? They didn't put that in after all?
No, there's nothing on the culvert.
Oh, I thought they were going to do that. All right.
So tomorrow is the bids going out?
Is that not true?
I don't know. That's, you said November
The bid
15th?
opening. So I was told November 16th,
opening.
the bid opening.
Okay, that's, sorry, I misunderstood you.
Construction in December and a May finish. Rooster River, they're still waiting for Army Corps of Engineer, but they do think that they're going to get the approvals this month, and that's for the detention basins at Fairchild Wheeler and Tunxus.
Right.
The downtown green infrastructure we already talked about. It's going to have to be a multi-phase project. The bid was coming in significantly over the 1.2 that was allocated in ARPA. High-intensity wave study is supposedly still in purchasing. I don't know why it's not being released. We're supposed to look at it before it goes out, so I don't know the status of that. I followed up once with Adam, and I followed up again with him about a week ago to see where we are with that.
I don't even know anything about it.
No, I know. It's like, we'll tell them in due course. Yeah, we'll tell them in due course.
Railroad.
Letter.
Circuit Railroad underpasses we already talked about. Penfield Resilience we talked about. Penfield Beach Club study. This is a approved study. It has a $100,000 price tag to do the study. The action item on this, which was agreed back in the summer, was that we were going to have an informal conversation with the directors
to open up the dialogue
of the Penfield Beach Club to let them know we were doing it and have this could be a collaborative project. Tom Bremer had Fairfield Beach Club, sorry. Tom Bremer had said he would do that and would have we'd asked obviously to be part of that meting. And he said
I spoke with Tom about that. He hadn't scheduled anything with them yet. I said, could we want a representative from Flood and Erosion come along? He said, well, let me think about that. I'm not sure how I want to approach them. I'm sorry, in my mind, I want to approach them with, hey, we want to look at this thing, and work with you. And we realize we don't want to impact your operations at all. We don't want to build some big ugly thing in your parking lot, which is too small for all your members now anyway. But, we want to let you know what's going on.
But we do own the easement along the road in front of you, so that's the town property. So, but ideally, we would do this as a collaborative effort.
And they going back 3-4 years ago now, when Flood and Erosion did have a couple. It was in the 15th. It was 2015 that we had a couple meetings with them. We being me and Rick Grauer, who was the president or the chairman of FECB at the time. We sat down with them and we had a meeting with them, and there's a couple email letters that exist that were they're willing and anxious to be a good neighbor to those who live beyond the beach and not have their green clay from their tennis courts wind up in everybody's pool.
Yeah. So presumably they're going to feel the same way. I hope.
I see no reason.
They are. Well, they're redoing the pool is what they're doing, which means they're digging up that tennis court. There's a whole plan to redo the whole pool itself. There is a beauty
Yeah.
pool, and I was noticing, because I've now been doing a lot of work on bioswales, and did you know that New Haven has 286 bioswales?
I heard that mentioned just the other day, as a matter of fact.
And I have seen about 25 of them. We did a tour. But anyway, I think we need to be thinking about something like that for this area. Now, I know bioswales don't work as well when you're down by the beach, because there's no place for the water to go.
And that's what the downtown green infrastructure was, in my recollection, that's what
It was a series of
that was
bioswales.
going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of bioswales.
And New Haven is working really well. They have them all around their downtown.
So,
Anyway, let's keep going. Engineered beaches we did briefly talk about. They're really on hold as far as the Penfield piece, but I did ask the DPW through engineering to make sure that they're doing the work needed to grade the beaches so that we can show a history and pattern of doing the grading, so that if there is a big storm and it washes the sand away, we can get funds to go back and regrade it to that prior grade. Pine Creek dredging, the DEEP had requested we get another bathymetric study. That has been done, and I believe that I think Bill said he was sending that to Alexei.
And send it to
Alexei this week.
Alexandra.
Bathymetric or bathymetry.
Oh, okay.
A bathymetric study.
Okay, thank you.
That's just basically the contours of the.
Yeah, that's done, and then with that being done, he's going to send it to Alex, and
Alexei, and then she could apply for the permit.
She's going to apply for the permit, and then that little group will go out for bids under the auspices of the town, because the town has not yet stated any kind of, we're going to pay for it, we're going to kick in anything. This is just with the boaters who live on Pine Creek at the moment.
Right.
So there's a couple steps still yet to go on that.
The railroad bridges, the railroad bridge over by the tennis bubble area, they finally received the permit from Army Corps.
Army Corps permit.
And that has been funded, and we'll move forward then to do the culverts and take the bridge off basically and redo the tide gates there.
I think the next step is for Race to do the project documentation, do the drawings and the documentation so it can go out to bid.
Yeah.
And I don't recall them saying any timeline on that.
We did not get a timeline, but now they can actually authorize that to move forward. Sunny day flooding, we talked about trying to keep that on the project list, but there's no funding for that. We need to get authorization to have elevations done, and our current surveyors are busy doing other things. So we would have to either go outside for the surveys or wait till they are finished. Edgewood Place flooding, it's on the drainage list for fall and winter. And we talked about stormwater improvements. Bill puts in about $250,000 a year into the budget each year for some stormwater improvements, but it's not, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to replace that.
Sorry, Edward Place. Oh,
Edgewood Place flooding. And that's all I had on my list. Did I miss any?
No, that's good.
Okay. Any questions on status of projects?
Becky, the keys along the beach, I sent Dick a note this afternoon. I have not heard back from Conacrete again, and amongst the items they were going to provide were names of contractors. I've also done some investigating that has me thinking that it might be just as easy to do it with stone as with the modular concrete. I was simply going to suggest that perhaps I reach out to a couple of the contractors that were referenced by Conacrete and see if I can get some very preliminary pricing.
That would be great. I think that the key for me, I think on this, and just for context, this is to build either tees on the end of the groins to accrete sand, or to possibly build sort of intermittent offshore breakwaters to minimize the wave action. So to me, either one of those would need to be seen as a hybrid gray-green structure. And the reason I liked the concrete, whether it's the oyster castles or some of these concrete prefab blocks, is that they usually are built with the intent to be able to house oysters and sea creatures in it, so it becomes a living reef. And it's much more palatable to deep in order to do that. I'd be nervous if we did a stone version of it, and it would just add big stones, that you wouldn't have the same living reef approach, which I think is critical to getting permitted.
Yeah, that.
Okay. Well, the material that Dick sent to me that highlighted the Staten Island project had the standalone offshore breakwaters, and they used the concrete method. And I noticed that the construction project managers were the outfit that came and talked to us 2 or 3 years ago, Ramble. But that doesn't mean that they have any particular, we should have any particular preference for them, but I just noted. But I would add, when I walk down Fairfield Beach, I am amazed how many oysters and mussels are attached to the stone. Now, if Deep would rather have it be the concrete modules, fine, but it looks to me like the stone accomplishes the same thing. Am I missing something?
Perception.
Okay.
Is what you're missing.
Enough.
Perception is that you create these little niches in there that kind of add a protective. You're right that oysters will grow on stones and mussels. They do that in nature.
Not as fast as they'll do it in the concrete pools.
So I think that the concept of these sort of protected areas where the small spats and young fish and young oysters can grow is the perceptual trigger that allows that to be permitted.
So now another item on our project list, although not specifically a flood and erosion project, is the Ash Creek Estuary.
Well, that is a flood and erosion, because we're looking to do the high-intensity wave study might be along there.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, yes, that's right, it is erosion.
It's definitely erosion.
I just stay hung up on people thinking grasses will stop flooding, because I don't personally believe that. Anyway, so in the Ash Creek Estuary, Becky and I were at a meeting today with Gail Robinson and a couple other folks from the Ash Creek Estuary, because they have been approved for a $600,000 grant to study what can be done to the Ash Creek Estuary. And one of the people at the meeting was Laura Wildman. And Laura Wildman is the vice president for Save the Sounds Ecological Restoration. And if you recall, I think I sent around, or somebody sent around, the second article in the series currently being written by Jan Ellen Spiegel in the Connecticut Mirror. And this one talked about, the title was, "With Connecticut Shoreline Flooding Rising, Officials Turn to Natural Mitigation." And the first picture in her article, and this is the second in a series of 4 that she's planning to write. The first picture is of the Chittenden beachfront area. And lo and behold, Laura Wildman mentioned that in our meeting today about that Save the Sound is also working on Chittenden area. And further on in the article, one of the things that caught my eye, and I will read that, is the idea in that one was to put put stone sills just offshore. These are underwater revetments, essentially walls made of boulders that allow water to flow through but act as a brake on wave energy. So there's some serendipity between what Laura Wildman and Save the Sound are doing in Chittenden and what we're kind of envisioning to save our peninsula from erosion, well, the whole beach from erosion. So, which one comes first, one comes second, who knows, but maybe we can get the whole world thinking in the same direction one of these days.
Well, SLR is the firm that's working on that, so it'd be interesting. They would be potentially someone we might want to encourage to bid. Right. Since they'll have some experience. I didn't know GEI. They're working on the Big Rock project in New York, which is similar. I'm not familiar with GEI.
Peter, wasn't GEI one of the people that you got involved
OIG
a few years ago?
That was OIG.
No, that was...
Oh, okay. I've seen...
No, you might be right.
I've seen the GEI initials somewhere along the line. Anyway, they're another
O'Brien and Gear and Rambo. No.
Anyway, so is that we're going to work closely with this group, I think, because we want to do some common things on the Jennings Beach, do some erosion control plantings and stuff, removal of invasives, and put in more erosion-resistant plants and stuff there, and possibly along the Ash Creek berm as well. So we need to sort of consolidate our plan, but they're very open to working together with us on this. Next agenda item is flood and erosion control next newsletter. We do have some new Rooster River names. We got those, which is great. I was starting to put together the newsletter, and I thought I was going to do something on sort of the importance of marshes and tide gates, thinking I could give an update on the tide gate study, but I don't think that maybe that would be in the following newsletter because we won't really have anything to update other than.
Oh yeah, but you're not really going to get to that until early December, right? Realistically.
No, realistically, I won't get it. Yeah, that's true. We might have it.
Yeah, that should.
So I think we'd do an update on marshes and tide gates and why they're important, just from a managing floodwaters standpoint. I thought we would also do a Penfield update, which hopefully we will have a update by then.
Well, we'll have something.
And then I thought we would do just sort of a preliminary list of some of the other projects and just a short description just to show people what kinds of things the town is working on.
So an abbreviated project list?
Yeah, just like a 1 or 2 sentence. But I'm open to other suggestions. Are there other things that we think our community should be updated on?
I think we should say something about the Rooster River project, just because
a deeper dive,
it is moving along, and I mean that's been on the radar, on the general town radar for years now. So we should comment on it in each newsletter, I think. Okay,
so let's do a deeper dive on Rooster River instead of just a 1 or 2 sentence. We can maybe show one of the detention basin drawings. All right, that's probably enough. You don't want to have too much stuff in your newsletter, or people won't read it.
And just encourage them to tell a friend to sign up for our newsletter.
Yeah, well, we're over 100 people.
That's good.
And if I didn't
count
out of
that list,
I didn't.
That list was, what was it? 110 people, 110 emails from the Rooster River meeting.
So now that could get to be.
But a lot of repeats. There were the town people were on there and so forth.
Okay.
So who knows? Maybe we'd net 40 more, which is good.
Well, get our numbers up.
So.
The last item is for Dick to update us on the Association of Floodplain Managers meeting and anything on the Limois line.
Well, I put the Limois line because I actually used that tool. That little item was presented by Devin Santa, and he gave examples of how FEMA has this tool that shows you only the line of limited wave action. And what happens in the normal FEMA maps is that that line is frequently hidden by the line of demarcation between, say, a VE zone and an AE zone. But it's not necessarily coincident. And he said that FEMA still doesn't have their act together because this tool they have has it discontinuous, and it's really at odds with what's on their FEMA map because of the way it was constructed. And in that particular breakout meeting, Diane Ivkovic from DEEP was there, and she's like tuned into all the FEMA stuff. She's our FEMA coordinator, I think, for the state.
Yeah.
And she kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, they really don't have their act together yet." But it is useful, and I wanted to, because I wanted to see, for purposes of flood protection for the neighborhood beyond at Penfield Beach, where is the limo line? And in fact, the limo line, looking at the viewer, is coincident with the line between AE and VE at that point.
Which is
and
the road.
It's like 30 feet inside the sidewalk. From the sidewalk to the limo line going toward the pavilion building, it's like 30 feet.
Really?
If we were to build our flood wall at the sidewalk, it'd be fine. It's totally in an AE zone.
Yeah.
So that's what I use that for. And as I was mentioning before we started the recording, there is a list of all of the articles that were presented at that meeting, and they are very informative. And I will send, I may have, but I will definitely send the link around again to all the members.
Did anything come up about sort of the FEMA 2.0 new mapping? I was on the FEMA site because I wanted to see what the new FEMA mapping was for Fairfield, and apparently our area...
the community rating system 2.0?
No, the new mapping that's going on, where they're doing FEMA differently. They're doing it based upon risk, the new risk.
Okay.
So a lot of Connecticut has already been mapped, but our area had not yet, and it looked like it wasn't going to be mapped until February or March. But it's basically re-looking at the FEMA.
Are they redoing the maps, or they're redoing the formula for establishing
where the risk is, and they're making it more iterative. It's not
insurance premiums.
It's not just a straight line anymore. There's relativity of risk is the way they're doing it now for insurance. So my understanding is that the maps will actually extend further because now they're acknowledging that there is risk further inland. I could be wrong on that. It's a little unclear exactly, other than the fact that this is now risk mapping.
I saw something somewhere that I think was talking about the FEMA risk profile 2.0 or firm 2.0. And it said, well, they really don't have their act together yet, so we're not, we're still using the old method for a while, but I'm not sure.
I know our area is not online, because some other areas of Connecticut are on, if you go onto the site, you can see
because I had, back in maybe August, I had a question on my personal flood insurance, and I talked to the broker, and she said, yeah, that's this whole new 2.0 thing that they're doing. So
it's still in progress.
It's out there, yeah. It's a work in progress, not a
it's not done
hard and fast documented procedure yet, maybe.
Okay.
But no, I don't believe they talked about that at all.
Okay. All right, well, I don't have anything else. This is a special meeting, so we're not allowed to bring up any new subjects that are not on the agenda. I would suggest that we move to adjournment then.
I make a motion that we adjourn until December at our regularly scheduled meeting.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter, are you good with that?
All right.
Okay, sir.
We are now adjourned. Thank you all.
I will stop the recording.
7:52 or 3, whatever.
53, yeah.